I'm Basia. Just a little about myself. I grew up in Miami and I studied at a fashion school in Manhattan in New York City, the Fashion Institute of Technology. And now I'm still here in New York. I spend my days as a social media content curator for a Jewish non-for-profit. And I had the opportunity to go to Snorkel and study as a student a few years ago, and the privilege of coming back as a madricha, as a counselor last year in Key Largo. So it's really exciting to be back, obviously in a different format, but we'll roll with it. So I'm excited to have RoseAnn Rosenthal with us tonight. RoseAnn is the CEO Emeritus and former director of the Ben Franklin Technology Partners, and she's had quite a career journey and a lot to share with us. Welcome, RoseAnn.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for inviting me to be part of this. I'm, as Hinda knows and Iti knows, I am new to Bais Chana, and I'm finding more time to get involved now that I don't have to worry about the bottom line 24/7. So I'm looking forward to hearing more in these classes, and I was able to listen through the back door to a couple of them, so I congratulate all of you for your wonderful questions and the discussions that I've heard. So I'd like to have this be informal, and I was asked to sort of share sort of some observations that I've developed over the years as a Jewish woman working in business and in leadership positions. So I thought what I would do is fast forward to the end, since I'm at the end of my career cycle, not at the beginning, and share with you some generic or general observations and conclusions that I've drawn so far. And then we can back up and please feel free to ask questions, because this is to help you. It's not about me. So as I think about, had about 52 years in the business that I'm in, and my business is the field that I have been in is called economic development, regional economic development. And so our charge is to try to grow our regional economies in various ways. And at Ben Franklin, we do that through a focus on technology and innovation and entrepreneurs and young companies, working with universities and researchers and communities who are trying to develop an innovation economy. So that's our mission. That's what we do. And as a result of that, we have an awful lot of stakeholders who are different, with different interests. And as you think about the community in which you live, and if you're trying to think about the best way to grow your own region's prosperity, you have a lot of different forces and different interests that are often in conflict. And so really the task is, how do you find a way forward, and how do you bring people together around a plan and a strategy? So what does Judaism have to do with any of this? And what influence does it have on, did it have on me? I'll talk about me. I can't generalize it in terms of making my way through those decisions. I think as I took some notes for myself for tonight, one of the first things that was clear to me is that it provides a compass and a grounding and a set of values that are yours, that were mine, became mine. And those values and that compass really was important in terms of developing the practices for my organization, developing the policies for my organization, and in coming to decisions on actions that we had to take. It also became a compass for me personally in terms of how do you blend your career demands and your personal demands and your religious demands. And so without a compass, you can sort of get confused and taken in a lot of different directions. So that becomes a foundation from which to work. The second thing that I thought about was having that grounding and being able to make decisions based on that grounding gave me the strength to stand by decisions. And as a result of doing that, gave confidence to those who I was charged with leading, that there was a clear path ahead. You'd be surprised at how often as things come at you and you're trying to make your way through a thicket of issues, you can get very confused very quickly. And without having a light in there to guide your way, you can get torn in a lot of different directions, and that confusion then transmits to your staff and others, and makes them weaker in terms of moving forward. So having that strength is important in terms of decision making. I think that also the third thing that I thought about was having that firm set of values and a thinking process gives you the freedom, gave me the freedom to not be intimidated by others in terms of the views that I had, and an ability to transmit those views and impart those views in a way that was respectful, but may have been different from the prevailing view. And so having that freedom of expression and freedom not to be intimidated by others who could be in very different positions and more powerful positions is not an easy thing. And I think having a firm set of values enables you to do that. Another thing that I observed in reading so many different management books and manuals and Harvard Business Reviews is that all of the different theories and processes, there is a parallel in Judaism to almost every single one of them. And so in terms of a business course, you can almost think of it as a very profound course in business. An example would be when we think about how we transform, our role to transform the world. And you think about sort of the merging of the spiritual and the material. Well, if you're transforming an organization, which I had to do, you have to have that same kind of integration of what's new and what's there, and how do you integrate it to really drive change and transformation. So I've seen a lot of parallels in what I'm studying or learning in terms of Judaic studies and what I'm experiencing in the business world. It's always interesting to make that crossover. I think that also there's a recognition every day for me and a gratitude that I've been given an opportunity in my career to pursue a mission that I think is very important for people, but an awareness that of all the pieces that had to come together to make anything move forward, and the fact that it's not me doing it, but there's just a lot at work to make things happen. Not only my team, but just quote coincidences out there that have to come together for something to happen. And I think having that sense of a recognition that it's not all me, but something else is at work here, and appreciating that and being grateful for that, I think is very important, because that sense of it's not just us also permeates to the rest of my team. And then I think a calm in terms of setting priorities and making the decisions and the trade-offs. Again, if you know where you want to go, there's less concern and angst about making those decisions. So, which can be very stressful. So, so again, that roadmap. And then in the end, I think a realization that where I've made decisions not to go to an event or not to do something, or and we can get into these in terms of schedules and dietary restrictions and events that you don't go to because they conflict with a holiday or whatever. The realization that at the end, what I didn't do or didn't get to do really didn't matter. And in fact, the process of making those decisions in many ways gave others the confidence that what I said I was going to do, I'm going to do. And there was a sense of integrity there. So it's interesting how things come back in support of what you want to do. And in the beginning, in the early years, there was angst that, wow, I'm going to miss an opportunity, or my career is not going to advance if I don't do A, B, or C. And in the end, I will tell you, 52 years later, didn't make a difference. It did make a difference. So I'm going to stop there, and because I really like to understand what you all are struggling with and what you want to accomplish, and see if I can help in any way.
So, Roseanne, I remember my first internship in college was with a marketing agency in New York City. And when it came Friday that I needed to leave early for Shabbat, I really was unsure like how I should tell them, if I should even tell them that I have to leave for Shabbat or make up another reason. And I can't even imagine how much more stressful that would be if I'm someone maybe entering the workforce out of college looking for a job. When do you think is the appropriate time to maybe tell your future employer or your current employer that you have certain values that you would like to uphold and be celebrated?
Yeah, and I think it may be different for everyone, but I know I can just tell you that in my situation, when I was when they were recruiting for my position 25 years ago now, there was heavy competition. Um, and there were 120 people vying for the position. And I was the one that was being selected, and it was down to the negotiation. And at that point, I told them that I had these obligations, and if this was going to be a deal breaker, it was going to be a deal breaker, and it wasn't. And so in my case, I went through the whole process, so to the point where they wanted me, and so then they've got to make a decision: are they going to accommodate me or not? Now, if you're an entry level person, might be a little bit more difficult, but I would say don't give yourself don't give a reason for somebody to knock you out at the beginning. Convince them first that you're the one that they want, and then you can have a negotiation and a discussion, and you might have to give something up, whether you come in earlier, or whether work on a Sunday, or whether whatever it is. What arrangement can you make? Earlier in my career, when I had to leave early, I came in earlier. I used my vacation time for the holidays. So, I mean, it was, you try to find a way to make it work, but get the position, get them to want to hire you first, is what I would say.
So I also remember, and I hope or I hope not actually, that a lot of girls could relate to this feeling that um, outside the workforce, Judaism felt something that was very much celebrated in my life and like unique to my identity. And then once it came to the office, it was more like, how much could I hide this a little? Like, okay, I'll wear a skirt every day, but I don't want them to ask any questions. Or when they invite me out, let's say for a work dinner, as you explained, and you can join, like not so much like being proud of like, this is who I am and this is what I stand for, but almost like, how quiet can I keep it? So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think you need to keep it quiet. I also don't think you have to shout it from the rooftops either. I think it's just a matter of being who you are, and just it's just a fact. It's just a thing. I don't know that I would make more of it than that. I mean, when I've gone places or had to go into, which I always did, and you roll this back some 50 years now, right? It's a lot easier today because there's a lot more acceptance of people who are gluten-free or vegan or vegetarian or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of accommodation going on for lots of different people and things and religions and ideas. So you're going to have an easier time of it. And there's more acceptance of, okay, you're whatever you are, and just wear it and just be at ease with it. The more at ease with it you are, the more at ease other people will be. I found that I never asked anyone to accommodate me, whether if I were going anywhere, whether for travel or for schedules. And what I found was they reached out to accommodate me. I didn't ask. Um, and people went out of their way to make sure that I had what I needed. So it was a very interesting thing because they became interested in what I was doing and what this was all about. So I think you'll find if you're comfortable with it, other people will be comfortable with it.
Right. So I guess it really comes down to that people respect people who respect themselves.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yep.
So I also think that a common thing in the workforce could be differentiating kind of your self worth and your purpose from your work? Like, meaning if you do really good at work one day, you'll feel really good about yourself. Like, that was an amazing project. I got really good feedback. But the day that doesn't so much happen, where there was actually a lot of criticism, and it's not so much directed at you as a person, but you feel so like connected with your work. How do you separate the two and create that balance?
Well, in my work, I didn't separate the two because my mission at work was my mission. I really felt that what I was doing was what I was here to do, and still here to do. So if there was a setback, and believe me, there were setbacks. I think the ability to not get all, again, go back to the calm, right? Not get all caught up with it, and know that some things are just not going to work. And if you've done your best, and you can learn from what didn't work, and it's not about you, it's about something just didn't work. And that's an attitude that I've tried to bring to my whole organization, because our organization is about innovation. Innovation, there is no book to read from to figure out what to do. You're innovating. And when you're innovating, you're gonna fail sometimes. So if I can't convey a calmness for people who are going to try something and it's not going to work, you know what's going to happen. They're not going to try something the next time around. So I think it's better to try to understand what didn't work, why didn't it work, and let's try it again. Let's try something else again. So it's not about you personally, it's about what you're trying to do just didn't work. Okay, so the next time it might work, and just keep moving on. Keep that perspective.
Right. Um, so did you ever find any conflict with balancing work and your home life and your family life?
Um, there are always opportunities for conflict. I think that, you know, I love the guys who want to have meetings at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know, because it's a macho thing to do. Why anybody wants meetings that early that morning, I have no idea. But when my son was a baby, you know, I said, sure, you know, come to my house. We'll have Cheerios at 7 o'clock. You know, let's just do it. You know, but um, you just have to figure out what's important to you. What was important to me was the ability to observe, the ability to be there for my family, and then my job, in that order. And people knew it. But by the same token, you know, as I got into positions of leadership, I made sure that I gave my staff that same consideration, so it was easier on them. They have priorities, and want to respect their priorities. Um, you know, if there were so many events that I couldn't go to because they were on a weekend, or they were being scheduled on a weekend, and I would just say that I couldn't do it. And you know something, more often than not, if they wanted me there, they would change. They would change the schedule, and rearrange the time. So again, if you're performing and you're diligent, and folks see that you're committed and you're of value, you'd be surprised at how they decide that they want you. And if they want you, they will change. They will change.
Pretty impressive. We have a question here from someone in the audience that they want to know if you would suggest leaving out the Jewish part when applying for internships and jobs, considering that there might be some anti-Semitism out there.
What's going to happen if you remove it and then you get the internship? You're then putting yourself in a situation where there's anti-Semitism anyway. So I would rather confront it. I mean, if you're an intern, people are going to figure it out sooner or later. And if they're anti-Semitic, they're anti-Semitic. I mean, I had an experience with that very early on with an individual who was looking to be a client. I was in a meeting, and he was a heat treater, metal heat treater, And he just thought they were wonderful devices for cremating people, and was one wonderful thing to kill Jews. I was right in this meeting, So you're gonna face these things, and just didn't have anything to do with him after that. That's for sure. He never became my client, certainly. But I don't know that I would remove it. Again, you're hiding and you're apologizing, and you're sort of, it gives a message that there's something wrong with my being Jewish. Well, no, there isn't. There's something wrong with them if they can't accept it. I wouldn't do that.
I love that answer. We have another question here. If you have any advice for how to handle shomer negia, which means to not touch a male or anyone of the opposite gender, and that she's mentions here that she's in a male dominant major in industry and that it's a struggle for her.
I think in today's environment, it almost should be easier because your HR department will freak out if anybody touches anybody these days. So I almost can't envision a situation where you would have to, unless you are in the medical profession, or I'm having a hard time in a business setting, why that would even be an issue. I would need more information on that. I mean, if it's part of your job, it's part of your job. If it's not part of your job, then it shouldn't be an issue. I'm not understanding.
So on that same topic, did you have any challenges when it came to modesty in the workforce?
No, I dress the way I dress. And, every picture you see of me has a long skirt and the sleeves and the whole bit. No one cared. I'm not in the fashion industry, so no one's going to worry about it. I mean, if you look professional and you're going to work, it's your choice, and that's it. That's it.
Any funny work stories that you remember that you want to share with us?
Funny work stories. Yeah, sure. I have a funny work story. So this one merges the issue of Shabbos and also Shaitel, right? So I was working as part of the team on the defense closure, and the folks in the Navy were trying to build a relationship with us, and they had an aircraft carrier, and they said, we really want to. This is a big deal to be invited to an aircraft carrier to get catapulted. You know what it is to get catapulted off an aircraft carrier? You're on the plane and they let you go and you right in the air. And so because I was working on the defense issue, they said, we're going to invite a few people to be catapulted off the aircraft carrier. Cool. All right. Now, how do you first it was on a Saturday. So of course, I really can't do this. I didn't want to get into this with this poor ensign, because I figured I don't want to go all through this discussion. So I said, no, thank you, but I really can't. No, Mrs. Rosenthal, we really want you there. We really want you there. So they moved the date. Again, they moved the date. I didn't ask him to move the date. So it moves the date, and the date is on a holiday. No, I really can't do this. Can't do this again. And this poor man is freaking out because he really doesn't want to go up to his lieutenant to tell him that he can't get me to be on this catapult. And then I'm wondering, how the heck would I even get on the catapult? Because you have to put this big helmet on you, and you're all strapped in. And I'm thinking, putting the helmet on is not a problem. Taking the helmet off is probably going to be a problem for me, So I was able to encourage the individual not to be concerned, that I would talk to his supervisor, that I really can't do this. I appreciate the invitation, but I can't get on an aircraft carrier and be catapulted off. So that was an interesting story that I always regretted, that I couldn't get catapulted off, but I couldn't get catapulted off.
That is pretty epic. Any words of advice that you want to share with girls who are starting their career journeys, graduating college, entering the workforce?
Yeah. have confidence and be optimistic, and don't hide who you are and what you are. I mean, you don't have to wear it, you know, like a badge all the time, but people will accept you, and you will, you know, hopefully accept others as well. More and more society today is diverse, and, you know, I remind people we're part of that diversity. You know, it's not like everybody else is diverse and we're not. We are diverse, and make sure that you embrace that diversity.
And we have time for a few more questions. So I'll read you here from the chat that you mentioned earlier in the talk that there's a lot of collaboration, we could say, between Jewish ideals and things that you know from the business world. So do you have like any examples or stories of perspectives that you found?
Right now, hang on there. My dog is ready to pull my lamp right out. She's just turned 15. Here we go. Poor animal. There we go. There's the lamp. Knew that was going to happen. Hang in there, girls. Sorry about this. Well, let's talk in the dark. All right, let me try to put this on. There we go. Parallels. I think the requirement to be fair and sort of to judge when you're thinking about judging and making decisions, not to be influenced. You know, we learn not to be influenced by someone who has power, or not be swayed by the one who maybe at the other end of the spectrum. And I've had both of those influences, and the ability to just be fair and ensure that your process and your decision is based on, is not being influenced one way or the other, in favor of the wealthy or in favor of the poor, is a very important lesson, because in that way, I know that our organization is respected for its integrity, and that's a test that we're put to quite often in terms of policies and individual decisions. That's one example. I think the transformation of organizations and how you do that is another example. There's just lots. Those are two that come to my mind quickly.
Right, integrity. We have another question here for you on how it feels to be a religious woman in the business world when there's a lot of other religious women who take other roles, like maybe being a mother or a teacher, etc.
I don't know that I've ever thought about it. I mean, I consider I am a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a businesswoman. I think I'm a teacher in terms of the way I do it. So I think, you know, determine who you are, and you're a religious woman, you're a religious woman. So you can be a doctor, you can have a career, you can, or you cannot. You know, it comes down to how are you going to fulfill what your purpose is. You know, our byline in our organization, the first thing, you know, we're partners with a purpose. Had nothing to do with a religion, but that was our tagline. And you go on our website, and the first question we ask is, what is your purpose? And so each of you will discover your purpose, and you'll figure it out. I don't see a conflict.
Amazing. And our last question is if you have any quote or sentence or phrase that you keep in the back of your mind to repeat to yourself when making big decisions at work, at home.
No, I don't know that I have a big phrase in my mind. You know, I wouldn't say that. I don't think it's that simple. My staff has given me phrases and things, you know, like I have a little thing there that says women make better bosses. So, I mean, I have that at my desk, but No, I don't have any phrase.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. That was so inspiring
Thank you.
and very practical.
Good luck to all of you.